How do I figure out what's next in my career? How do I align my work with what truly matters to me? And the biggest question of all, can I really design a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I've seen how traditional paths can leave people burned out or boxed in. And I know there's a better way, one that invites you to let go of outdated rules and outside expectations, one that evolves and supports meaningful growth over time. Whether you're feeling stuck, craving more clarity, or ready to expand within your current role and beyond, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to explore practical, modern strategies for building a meaningful, heart-based career. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, your host, and I'm especially excited to be here for season 10 of the podcast. This season is all about flourishing together. We have a full lineup of heartfelt, insightful conversations with incredible guests. Each episode is a curated conversation designed to inspire, uplift, and offer practical wisdom to help you flourish in your career and beyond. Today, I am delighted to welcome Yolanda Owens back to the show. Yolanda and I had so much fun chatting about insider secrets from a recruiter's perspective. Then we discussed the hot topic of salary transparency. And today we're getting into ways to use your voice through writing to grow your career and make an impact. And if you're not familiar with Yolanda, you should be. She is a career coach, award-winning author, and founder of Career Sensei Consulting. And she's also a former corporate recruiter. Yolanda has 20 years of recruiting knowledge and tricks of the trade, which you can find featured in publications like Forbes, Newsweek, The Muse, CBS News, USA Today, and the New York Post. She shares her knowledge of what employers truly seek in potential candidates from a recruiter's lens. Yolanda, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's always such a great time having conversations with you.
Yes, this is our three-peat. We said we're going to have a playlist by the time this podcast comes to an end. So today we're going to dive into writing to boost your career. So you have written multiple books. You've been published in many articles. So what inspired you to start writing publicly and kind of sharing your voice in a bigger way?
Yeah, so friends were always telling me that, I should write a book. I would do presentations as a college recruiter, would put together presentations and do them, on campuses and internally for groups of people. And they were just like, you really should write a book. You're really funny. You got great advice. You should write a book. So it wasn't until I got into a job that I absolutely hated.
Oh,
absolutely hated. And I was just like, I felt like, I was bored. My talents weren't being utilized. So I did the advice that I always give my clients. When you find yourself at that point, you need to find a healthy distraction. So I turned to my bucket list. I'm like, what's something on my bucket list that I haven't done that I really want to do? And I always wanted to write a book. So I always thought I was going to write a children's book, but this took on a completely different form. So I call it kind of my Carrie Bradshaw meets Drunken White of careers.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of Sex and the City meets Drunken White. So I decided to write a careers book. So that's how my book, How to Score a Date with Your Potential Employer, came about. I got tired of my job and I was like, I need a healthy distraction. So while I was traveling, that's what I did, and sat down and on weekends. And while I was traveling, I wrote the book. It took me 4 months. It was basically just a bucket list item just to kind of tick the box. And then it kind of exploded from there.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And that advice, that guidance around a distraction and kind of something that you always wanted to do is that helps keep your head in the game when you're in a less than desirable role, but you're also contributing to something that you've wanted to contribute to on the side, even though it's on the side, but it keeps your head in the game, from a day job perspective too, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it gave me something to look forward to at the end of the day besides looking in my rearview mirror as I was driving home and hoping that the building was on fire.
Oh, no.
But yeah, it made the days go by faster because I knew that, okay, if once I get home or at this point in time, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this. And so it made me get through tasks and gave me some kind of a light at the end of the tunnel to look forward to.
Yes. And I think you hit it right there. Having something to look forward to, especially when you're in a not so fun day job, is so critical, whether that's something professional or personal or just a daily delight, a little joy to look forward to every single day can really help carry you through the days that are heavier. And so I think that this is really good guidance for folks if they're in that situation. Now, let me ask you this. So did you write the book before you started contributing to articles? And that's how, okay, tell me how that happened.
Actually, that was kind of a fluke. I was doing the photo shoot for the book cover. And the person who was doing the photo shoot happened to run a magazine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at the end of the photo shoot, she's just like, how would you like to be a contributing writer for us? I was like, what? She's just like, yeah, we'd love for you to write a couple of articles for our magazine. I was just like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
So that's
awesome.
kind of how that started. So I had articles that, had come out before the book had come out, which was great publicity.
Definitely.
Because, once that article came out, other people saw it and I got contacts from other people to write articles as well. And, talking about the book before it came out was helpful. My employer at the time shouted me out and it gave me some opportunities. I was able to do some presentations, and another presentation I did was to a sister of someone who was an angel investor who owned a career site, and I ended up writing for them. It just kind of snowballed, and like I said, in ways I hadn't imagined. I also hired a publicist as well, which was really helpful. It was a friend who was in high school and she was trying to launch her PR company, and she was just like, hey, I need some clients. I'm like, hey, we know each other. I trust you. And so, she got me a few placements. Then that turned into doing podcast and radio, and then ended up doing things like CBS News, and it was just ridiculous. It got me some really, really good traction. And like I said, a lot of this came about before the book was even dropped.
I love this so much. So just the thing that comes to mind here for folks, for job seekers and folks that are interested in doing some writing, networking. So just the fact that you were doing the photo shoot and you had the conversation and that opened up, a potential collaboration or a collaboration for an article in a magazine. And then your colleague from high school and that's working in a publishing company. I mean, that's really how this stuff starts to grow legs. And the other thing that comes to mind is when you're on the right path, opportunities start coming to you. And that clearly was the case for you, that you felt this pull to write and you started writing and you started contributing. And then the opportunities started coming to you, like your employer shouting it out and CBS News and these big things started coming your way. So clearly those are all divine signs that you're on the right path.
They are. And my grandmother has a saying that resonates in my head daily. She always told me, you can't catch a fish unless it opens its mouth. So you always have to talk about things because help is always going to come from unexpected places.
This is true.
So, that's something that's a mantra that's with me on a daily basis. And I have to remind myself when I'm just like, oh no, I'm not going to say anything. I can hear that in the back of my head.
Totally. Yeah, it is scary. Visibility can be pretty scary too. And that kind of brings me to another question around when you first were published in an article. It sounds like the articles were first. And like the first time you saw your name in a publication, tell us about that moment, because visibility can be scary for folks.
Oh my God, I think I did cartwheels. It was
You're so excited.
I was just like, wow. It was really cool to see something, national. I mean, I'd been published in like my hometown newspaper or what have you, but outside of that, I'd never really had anything like major. So to see myself in a magazine, oh my God, you couldn't tell me anything. I was just like, yes, I am the Black Carrie Bradshaw.
That is amazing. Yes. With that moment when you first see yourself contributing, like kind of reflected back to you in paper, in ink is so amazing. And I love that you were celebrating and cartwheels and all the things. I think that is so, so fabulous. For folks that are nervous about writing as part of their career or nervous about that visibility, what would you say to them? Like, what would you say about the visibility of writing and contributing to articles and books and how that's either supported you or you got over something that was nerve-wracking about it?
Yeah. Everyone, I think people hesitate because they worry about their level of good. And your level of good is going to resonate with someone. So as long as you're aware of that, your good doesn't have to be someone else's good. And what you consider good, someone else is going to attach themselves to.
Yeah.
So don't worry about how good you are. Worry about saying something worthwhile. And if it's worthwhile to you, there's somebody else that's going to be worthwhile too.
Definitely. I love that you shared that. Thank you. And I think that holds a lot of folks back. I especially talk, and you probably have talked to folks that aspire to be writers or work in the communications field, and they're really nervous just to even start a blog or something like that. But as soon as you start and you don't worry about the perfectionism and just give it a go and you recognize you get that feedback that it did resonate with somebody, that really gets the engine moving. So worrying about the level of good, I think is really, really fabulous guidance. So thank you for that. Now, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but how did writing the book or contributing to articles really shift how others perceived you as an expert in the field and your leadership in general?
Oh, I think the biggest shift was in myself because I didn't really see myself as a subject matter expert. So once I started getting attention, it really forced me to elevate myself to that level, which was good. And because, like I said, I didn't consider myself a subject matter expert. People would ask me to do things and I didn't be like, oh, this is really cool. And I go and talk and think nothing of it. But then I realized that people were really listening.
Yes.
And, that it is making impacts. And so, using my powers for good. So that became really important. And then it opened a lot of doors for me as well. It gave me street credibility, so to speak, because, once people see that you're published, then your voice has merit. Yeah. And people take you more seriously. And it also presents opportunities for you to have seats at tables that you may not have had access to before. So it provided me with a lot of access. And like I said, it really gave me an opportunity to use my voice for good. And that I took very, very seriously. And it's something that I'm really thankful for. I think if I hadn't had that writing experience, I wouldn't be running my own business right now. So it opened a lot of doors and it really prepared me to be a leader to be able to run my own business.
Yes, I love that you shared that. What I'm hearing too is it's not about ego. It's about alignment and connection and impact that you're sharing with others. So it's almost an act of service that you're sharing this information with others that's going to help and support them versus the ego side, which I think sometimes people get caught up in. And so I'm kind of hearing that a little bit between the lines there. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, it's a total act of service.
Yeah.
It's not about me at all. Anything that I do is very intentional. I want to make sure that I'm helping people at the end of the day, which is why I run my own business. I wasn't always in love with the way the companies I was working with ran their business or how they were asking me to execute deliverables. So I get to curate that myself and add value in how I see fit and making sure that people are getting the service that they need to. So everything I do is an act of service.
Yeah. Yes. And this is a fabulous example of when you do things with intention and as an act of service, it opens those doors. So the collaborations and the leadership, the speaking, all of that starts coming to you and you start attracting that. It's almost like this magnetism. Like you start attracting that to you, which, it's a win-win for everybody when you're sharing, the insights and stories and strategies that you've learned along the way. So now, you've written both fiction and nonfiction, which I find is fascinating. So can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between these two types of writing and maybe a little bit about how you approach each one?
Yes. I went in completely blind, not knowing. I don't know that I would recommend somebody do both. And to preface that, I ended up writing fiction 10 years or more after doing the fiction. Completely different. Fiction tends to be, in my opinion, more instructional and more autobiographical. And it was much easier to write. I wrote my first book in 4 months.
Yeah, that's
so it didn't take long at all. It was a subject matter that I was really, entrenched in. Of course, it's careers and recruiting and things of that nature. So that was something that was really easy for me to do. So, like I said, my background's in education. So writing something that was more instructional and just having a narrative around that came very easily.
Yeah.
Fiction, on the other hand, oh God, character development and research and all those different elements, that's a completely different animal. Just to give you the juxtaposition, the first book of nonfiction took 4 months. The fiction book took me 2 years to write.
Wow, right.
So it's a much bigger time commitment and far more difficult. It's probably the most challenging thing I've ever done in life.
Wow.
And again, I didn't know what I was getting myself into with either. If I don't know if I'd ever write another book of fiction again.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was very, very difficult, but very, very rewarding. So yeah, the approaches to both were bipolar different.
Yes, I can only imagine. I'm a big reader. I love reading fiction. And when I read fiction, it blows my mind how authors get inside the characters' minds almost in order to articulate what they're going through and what they're saying. And when I read fiction that has depth to it, that is even a whole nother layer that I can't even imagine. It's not even just putting sentences together and thinking about sentence structure and who the message is for. It's really about an entire story and the developing of the characters and the depth and the message that it's sharing. Congratulations to you for sticking it out, especially the 2 years. I mean, that's a long time to work on something like that and knowing how difficult it is. So congratulations.
And it's funny, what you were saying, you do find yourself channeling characters. At least I did. I could actually channel and hear the characters' voices in my head.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I was storyboarding or outlining or what have you. That was really, really interesting.
Yes, I can imagine. And then I think about, just as we're talking here, just the differences between the two. So nonfiction draws from real life experiences, research, it's structured, there's a message, you have an intended audience, how can it be useful or helpful? And then fiction is revealing and wondering and creating and discovery. There's so much. And I listen to a lot of podcasts from fiction writers just because I'm so intrigued. And it seems like everyone has different ways that they go about it. So sometimes people know what the ending's going to be and they kind of reverse engineer an outline and go from there. Some people I've heard don't even know what the ending's going to be because they get so involved with the characters and they figure out what the ending's going to be as the story gets written, which is just so mind-blowing to me. So it's really fascinating. I love that you've done both too. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, speaking of writing and processes, give us a little behind the scenes. So you said your first book you wrote kind of on the side, having something to look forward to while you were traveling. And I'm not sure about the fiction book. So tell us, do you have little bursts of inspiration? Do you have a steady rhythm? How does that work for you?
With the nonfiction book, that was interesting because I started writing and my original concept for the book, as I started writing, it changed. I was just this sounds like everyone else's book. I need a different angle that wasn't out there, which is how I came to the whole dating scenario, how dating and finding a job, the parallels between those two. So I took a complete 360 and revamped my whole structure around that. And it made it easier. Once I did that, then I was just oh, this makes sense. Then I can do this chapter, this chapter, this chapter. I think a unique thing about me is that I don't necessarily write in sequence.
Tell me more.
Both with my nonfiction and with my fiction writing. I don't always write my chapters in sequence. I may start in the middle and then go to the end and then go to the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And so when the ideas come, I may have things outlined or storyboarded and know the direction that I want the book to go in or the chapters to go in. But as I'm doing research or I'm digging deeper, as things, kind of reveal themselves and I'm seeing ideas come to life, then I will write on that. And then the rest of it, I kind of piece together the connective tissue as those things come along. So it tends to be a little tedious, but it works for me. So like I said, writing in sequence, I don't subscribe to that rule. I may write out of sequence and just, kind of where the spirit leads me or where I'm finding ideas and where I can see the connection coming together.
Yes, that's so interesting. One of the things that I found, and I've written just, chapters and contributed to some articles and stuff, but the connecting of the ideas or the characters or whatever, that's tricky. So I actually really admire the way that you just shared that and kind of getting the plot or the ideas down, regardless of where they fall, and then maybe moving things around, but then connecting all of it together. That actually, you're something is clicking in my head as you're saying that, because I think one of the hardest things is connecting it all. So, and I could see that how that could hold people up too, like, oh, how do I connect this to this, and like get super stuck versus like, hey, let's not think about that right now. Let's kind of go and get these ideas and get these characters and get these elements out and then go back and connect it. So I love that you share that. It's really inspiring. Now, tell us about a surprising opportunity that maybe came from something that you wrote or maybe something unexpected.
Oh my goodness. At the onset of the pandemic, I got the oddest contact out of the clear blue nowhere. It was during the pandemic, business was slow. The world was pretty much shut down. I opened up my email and someone from PBS reached out to me to say that they were doing this, virtual web series about, recruiting and job searching during the pandemic and asked me to be a part of this like 9-part series. I was like, are you kidding? And it was because they had seen some article or something that I had written and they went down some rabbit hole and, it's like, oh yeah, we understand that you work with young professionals and this and that. And I ended up doing this web series.
Oh my goodness. Is it still available?
I think it is. It was on PBS and it was, like I said, it was the most random thing ever.
That is so fun.
That was pretty cool.
That is really neat. And it is so fun how sometimes you just like open up your email and the most random thing will be in there that turns into like this serendipitous, aligned, grounded, project that you get to work on. And the reason I was asking, the other thing that comes to mind here too is when you've contributed to some big names like the Forbes and the CBS News and things like that. And so a lot of these publications do allow you to either link or mention your business name, right? And so from that perspective, it's really good marketing and publicity. Well, even if it's just your own name, usually people can find you. But I've found, especially the Muse, they do a really nice job of linking out to your website or just to make it really easy for people to connect and find you.
Oh, it's been wonderful. I've had a lot of people who have reached out on my website because they're like, hey, I saw this article, or hey, I heard you speaking at this, or what have you. So it's a great marketing tool. And, those are the kind of opportunities that you want is for visibility and for people to see and know who you are. Because again, it adds to your credibility and your marketability.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, contributing to articles, writing a blog, podcasting, to me, it's such a fabulous way to get your name out there, to showcase visibility, to showcase leadership in a more quiet way. So you don't have to go out on social media and shout from the rooftops and all the things you're doing. You're contributing in a really impactful way, and it's going to get to the people that need it, right?
Absolutely. I prefer shadows to spotlight. So
yes,
that resonates with me so much. I like being behind the scenes. So that has always been paramount for me. I don't want to be that social media, influencer or what have you. That's draining for me. But being able to write an article quietly and having people absorb that and easy ways for people to get powerful, impactful pieces of information without giving too much of yourself.
Yes, shadows versus spotlights. I am going to save that because it's so good. And I don't know about you, but I work with a lot of like career folks and job seekers. Again, like they get so nervous, like they have to go and do all of these things because that's kind of what's out there, like you have to go shout from the rooftops, but you really don't. Like these are like being in the shadows, being behind the scenes, sharing impactful things in a way that's true to you will resonate with folks. So, yeah. Really good. Now, speaking of helping folks that are interested in writing, is there a mindset shift that's helped you see writing at more as a career catalyst, and maybe some guidance that you would give to folks from the mindset perspective?
Yeah. After I published the first book, I started living by the mantra, live out loud, speak out louder, and encourage along the way.
Love.
And that's kind of been the mantra that I've gone by. And that really helps to keep me grounded, and it helps me stay focused on my purpose. And so for people who are looking to write, understand your why you want to write, and what you're looking to seek from it. And sometimes it's just validation, the fact that you're able to do it, or like my original intent was just to tick it off a bucket list and call it a day. And it can lead to other things. But unless you put it out there and do it, you have no idea where it's going to take you. Yeah. So, go on blind faith. Do it for the sake of doing it and see what kind of results you get. The results will always surprise you.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's hesitant, just do it. And like I said, you're going to reap benefits some way, shape, or form.
100% agree with that. And it's like that nudge. Like if you're feeling that nudge, why not give it a try? Just give it a try. You don't know what's going to happen from it. I'll never forget, I was asked to be a guest blogger for a pretty well-known career person. This is when I first started. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. Like they asked me to do this. What am I going to say? And I just did it. And it blossomed from there. You just never know. So that blind faith, taking the first step, whether it's a guest contributor or supporting an article with a few sentences of your, your experience, and then, kind of seeing the feedback from there, and then taking it to something further if you want to go as far as a book, a nonfiction book, a fiction book, or anything beyond that. And I also love what we were talking about earlier is this form of service. Like it's being of service to other people. And that's really what it is. And that's going to help no matter what. It's going to help somebody that needs that in that moment, which when it comes down to it, like purpose and why, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like half the problems in the world could be solved if you understood the why.
Yes, I agree with you. And we talked about that with the whole salary discussion too. And I keep coming back to that with folks that are in interview prep and negotiating offers, is really about what is the why behind anything you do, because that's going to ground you in purpose and help you move forward more in a more meaningful way. Tell us about a personal belief or a lesson that shaped you as a writer and how that's evolved over time.
Oh, goodness. For a lesson for me is I don't like being bound by the rules. I'm a rule breaker. I feel like rules are like cages, and for a creative, that's purgatory. So when you're creative, that is your one time to be free. So, yes, there are some rules, but not subscribing to rules is really where you organically get to your creativity. And that's what's going to differentiate you from everyone else. And I think that's important to visibility. And I also think that's important to branding yourself and finding your audience, if that's what you're looking for. So, yes, there are rules, like me breaking the rules of writing a book in sequence. It's just like, you have to do what makes sense for you. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in a continuous loop of analysis paralysis. And that's something that I dislike. I'd rather, take down all the guardrails, do what I need to do, and then structure it later. That makes more sense to me. And for me, it's freeing in the way that I work and am able to produce things.
I am such a fan of rule breakers. So probably why you and I get along so well, especially in career, because there are so many traditional rules that have been so outdated at this point, whether that's in writing, in career, in job searching, all of the things. But I do think that being a rule breaker can make you a differentiator. It can help build your brand. And also writing and contributing to articles can help build your brand when you think about what do I want to be known for, and then start contributing in a very thoughtful and intentional way. So, and I can totally, when you said the cage, that's how I felt in corporate. I felt like I was in a cage and I just needed to get out of those four walls and be free. And it can be so freeing once you do that. And I imagine you probably felt that way since you started your own business as well.
We could form a support group. Yes. Absolutely. I felt like I was in a cage. You want to do things a certain way because that's what you see makes sense. But oftentimes you're in a corporation and you're just like, no, this is how we do things, or this is how things have always been done. And like I said, you're just like, I couldn't function like that. It was awful for me. And you feel that in your body the whole nine yards. It starts impacting other aspects of your life. So I'm like, nope. Got to break free from this. So yes, any way I can break out of the cage, I'm going to do it.
Yes. Rule breakers unite. As we wrap up, for someone who doesn't consider themselves a writer, quote unquote, but they have this nudge or this interest in doing so, where would be a good place for them to start?
Start just by writing, and then join a writer's group or join a book club. Those are two great places to start. Meeting with people who love the same thing that you do, who may be struggling with the same things that you do, or may be an inspiration to you. But like joining a writer's group or joining a book club, that's a really, really good start just to spark some interest and for you to have a comfortable space for you to share your voice.
Yes. Start somewhere comfortable. And I love the idea of surrounding yourself with other like-minded people. That's going to get you so far. No matter if you're writing or doing artwork or whatever you're doing, that's going to get you so far. So my goodness, Yolanda, this is such a fun conversation. Where can people find you out on the interwebs?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on my website, careersenseiconsulting.com or yolandaowens.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is Career Sensei.
Excellent. We will add all of those links for people to find you in the show notes. And Yolanda, thank you so much for joining me again today and sharing all this wisdom about writing in your careers. It's been such a delight.
Thank you for having me again. The third time was a charm.
It was. As always, listeners, you can find the notes from today's episode on the blog at flourish.careers/blog. Thank you so much for tuning in.